Well, thank you very much for staying with us. You are still watching KTN News. Let's quickly just look at what is expected this morning at our sister station. We're crossing over there live shortly about Kenya's preparedness for the Paris Olympics. How prepared is the Kenyan team? They will be having a special sitting and conversations with Francis Mutuku, who's the Secretary General of the National Olympics Committee, and Wanjiru Karani, who's the Team Kenya Paris Olympics CEO and Vice President of the Kenya African Tennis Federation. We'll be crossing over there shortly, but remember, thank you very much for being with us right here on KTN News. I'll see you again at 10 a.m. And a Luya proverb says that teeth does not see poverty. That is a food for thought. Enjoy the rest.
Days to go. The Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee is Francis Mutuku. He's our guest, alongside Wanjiru Karani, who's the CEO of the Team Kenya Paris Olympics. Francis, as we went into the break, you said this time we've gotten funding a bit earlier. So you've gotten funding from the government a bit earlier. You're also getting corporate support that's coming in a bit earlier. And CT had asked you, how did this happen? Especially the corporate coming in to support early.
Like I said, we've been, especially after we came into the office, we've been on a journey of transformation. We've been on a journey of transforming, first, the approach to sports, secondly, the management, and then probably maintaining the clear objective of athlete-centered programs. We had a lot of lessons we learned in Tokyo 2020, despite the COVID situation, and therefore one of the things we've been stressing to all our stakeholders is that preparation is everything in terms of participation. And on that journey, we started engaging very many people in good time. We've had very many retreats with government. We've had very many reach out to partners. We've had very many opportunities to explain our journey, our thoughts, and our vision around Team Kenya. And this time, we are proud and very happy that a lot of people are buying into that narrative of preparation, of giving our athletes the best chance in the best time possible. And that's why this year it's working. Are we there where we'd want to be yet? Not yet. But are there positive and great improvements in this year? Certainly. With government, with corporates coming at a very good time. And we are telling them we don't want an approach of sponsorship. We want an approach of partnership, where they come in and they stay with us for probably 4 years, because that's the cycle we are able to. So even the ones who are on board, to show what we need to do next time, is that they don't go out.
They stay
the
on
experience is good for them.
Right.
There's mutual benefit for everybody. They stay on so that we start the next cycle at much, much earlier.
But you see, one of the issues that, when you talk about money, not just for Olympics, but more so when it comes to sports and money, is then how that money is utilized and the public perception of it. So you see, okay, our athletes have gone, how have they performed? And then you start looking back at, so what happened in the preparation for this? Yeah, there was limited resources coming in, the corporates did not come in on time, but then ask why? Because of the scandals of the previous events. So I want to ask the question, every time not every time, but when we're going to the Olympics, there's always the question of who is going and for these Olympics, who's boarding the plane, who is staying in the hotel in Paris. This time, Wanjiru, how many joyriders do we have? We can allow a couple. Maybe we can have a plus or minus 5%.
There's always the odd joyrider who's useful. He helps the group feel spiritually together.
No,
those ones we allow. But
what's the margin for joyriders?
No. We shall have no joyriders. Everybody who goes will have a role. Will have a clearly defined role.
And zero.
It is true. We shall publish the list. So you shall have the list.
Lists have been published before. Lists have been published before.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, hey, how did this person get there and he was not on the list?
Their role is clear as well.
Their role is, yes.
Yeah, no, so
Okay,
long
but
as they're on
please
the
go
roll.
on.
Yeah, so long as they're on the list, then they have a role and they have a purpose to be in Paris. And their purpose is to support Team Kenya.
Okay.
Anybody
Let's
else,
go.
somebody can show up in Paris.
In
but
the order of
we are not in
importance.
control.
In the order of importance, who's the most important to be on the list and who's the least important? I mean, who, if pesa ikosekana, wewe ngojea basi ingine.
So the most important, first of all, is the athletes, right? So that we are in agreement. Athletes and their direct support, who are coaches and team managers. Least important. I think everybody who will be there will certainly have a role and will need to be in Paris. You don't think so? Why is that?
We see politicians who aren't in the Ministry of what's athletics, sports, and the acolytes. The Rio Olympics, we haven't fully recovered
Yes,
from what happened.
that is true.
Because anything that could go wrong actually went wrong. So, and you could directly relate that to the performance of the athletes. Because the impression that has been given over the years that the officials are more important than the athletes. The politicians are more important than the athletes. And the complaints are valid when you look at them and you know what happened. And it's not just, when you talk about athletes, you're talking about the boxing federation. You're talking about the football federation. It's like a colored copy-pasted outcome.
Template.
Yes, exactly. In football, we use the same template. Now, what we're saying is, we know the potential. When you have Kenyans competing in Winter Olympics, okay?
Correct.
The effort that goes into it, the interest, the obstacles that they must overcome, because we don't have winter here. And you're not going to tell me they go and train in Mount Kenya.
What we do,
Yes.
and perhaps to help people understand, will be to pose a question. We are very clear on the Rio 2016. Very clear. What do you remember of Tokyo 2020? Probably nothing, because there was no scandal. And we managed to run the Tokyo 2020 Olympics almost perfectly. And that's why our memories are still for Rio, because that's where something happened. And the performance was good. The travel was good. The accommodation was sorted. All athletes got their allowances before they boarded the flight. When they came back, they were able to get their bonus allowances, and those who performed well, they were able to be given. That's why it's quiet around Tokyo 2020. There's been a lot of improvement. At least we can authoritatively speak from the Olympic level. We can be able to say we've managed the Commonwealth Games, we managed the African Beach Games, we managed the Youth Commonwealth Games, and we can be able to very freely ask that you bring any of the athletes who were in the part of that particular program, and they come and give their own experience and give their own judgment in terms of their practice or in terms of how they were managed. That is what gives us a lot of confidence as we go to Paris 2024, that the needs of the athletes, at least as far as the mission of Olympics is concerned, are very simple and very straightforward, that the allowances must be paid on time. There's been improvement on how that is done. It doesn't go through any of the administrators. It goes directly from the sports fund to the account of the individual athletes, what we call the local allowance and what we call the participation allowance. And the rule has been, as far as Olympics are concerned, no athlete will board the plane before the allowance. For practical reasons, some are family members.
Yeah.
They need to pay for their rent, for their fees, they need to leave money for, so that when they go, they are settled. Second item is the kit. Again, the question would be, when last you had somebody complaining they have not gotten kit? We are able to, by the beginning of June, to publish what each athlete will get in terms of the item. We are able to say you'll get 2 tracksuits, you'll take 2 pairs of shoes, you'll get socks, ABC. We're able to publish that. We distribute it publicly. So it's not somebody being called somewhere. People come and see, so that we see what each person has been given. The second one is where we still have a lot of time to improve is on the flights. For us, we emphasize that the flights, because this we have to work in conjunction with government, that we book the flights in good time so that they do not have too much layovers in any of the transit points, and as much as possible, at least for Paris, should be a direct flight. So those are the 3 critical areas which have been affecting our athletes. We're even saying that is too basic. That should be sorted.
You should go further than
We are
this.
moving to performance. How do we promote the performance? And that's why now our focus is not so much of the basic travels, which any travel agent can sort within one day, but we are moving to more critical areas of the performance, and that's where probably a lot of work still needs to be put in. It has started. We still have a long way to go. The focus, the commitment, and the team which is able to deliver that is in place. We just need to work more.
Okay, on time. Ask City.
You hadn't finished what you're saying. Checklist. I want to hear.
The most important athletes.
Yeah, I want to hear
and
this
the
checklist.
support cast. Who is in that support cast? This is the physio, the coach,
The doctors.
the doctors.
The team managers. We have, who else? We have a management team, administration. Have I left out anybody else?
Nutritionist, nowadays
Yeah,
we have a sports
performance
scientist,
team, yes.
sports psychologist, because of the mental issues now. We have to get a lot of people to be able to support. Perhaps what we need our listeners to increasingly understand, especially in the world of sports, and I'm sure a lot of people, especially they'll be watching the EPL finals, you'll be able to see how many people will be on the bench. In the same way with sports, sports has improved that it's no longer one athlete, one coach. It is one athlete and a team of.
It's a team of coaches.
A team of coaches. So sometimes somebody might very simply look at the ratios and say these ratios are too many. Then they say, no, these are too many people. We are trying to build up a strong team around it.
Okay.
What we can assure our fellow Kenyans and supporters and people who support sport is that we want as many people as possible to go to Paris to support Team Kenya. We have published information on how they can travel. We've given them on how they can apply for visas, how they can get their tickets, how they can book their accommodation. There are even Kenyans in Paris who are ready to host Kenyans who go there. So I want people to pay. What the problem is when they go at the expense of an athlete. And we are saying that will not happen.
So that will not happen.
That will not happen.
Do you have a maximum number of athletes that you are going to take to Paris this year?
We don't have a maximum
CEO.
number. We encourage all athletes to try and qualify. The more, the merrier. Currently, we are at about 80. So we hope that we can continue qualifying a few more before.
Now, that comes into, what's the cutoff date for qualifications for?
So for each sport is different, but I think the very last one should be 30th of June.
Which one is this?
Athletics.
Which? All fields of athletics?
All fields of athletics.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something that I mentioned in passing during the break, benchmarking. How do we compare with other nations that we compete with? America comes to mind because they seem to have representation in everything. Okay? But let's look at the sector where we are good at, running. Okay? When we look at the way we prepare our runners, do we compete favorably with other nations who also bring in their runners? Because in the not too distant past, we have seen, for instance, Uganda has the middle distance races where we excel, and we have excelled for so long. I think other people just gave up, but Ugandans haven't. So you find Ugandan athletes coming in. You find other nations trying to come in. Like there's this gentleman who is shocking us with steeplechase, which we knew we had the patent for. And the person has come and it's not good anyway. There it is. Now, what I'm saying is, do we benchmark the training of our athletes? And if we do, how do we fare? How favorably do we fare with other nations who we compete with?
In all fairness, what we achieve as a country is close to a miracle. Because in serious sports engagement, to win a medal in Olympics, research has been done of how much investment financially is done. We are a steeplechase nation, strong. But how many steeplechase facilities?
Do we have?
How many academies of steeplechase? How many stadiums of steeplechase? Facilities of steeplechase? We do not have. So that's what I'm saying. We just achieve. Our Kenyans are just talented, resilient, and work very, very hard. I'll give an example. We were giving a talk at one of the universities in France, International University of Marseille, and the students there asked us our total budget. and we gave them our total budget. They were in shock, and they asked, "How do you manage
Is
to
it
win
possible to
medals?"
mention the amount on radio?
No.
But you gave it to students.
For academic purposes. but they were in shock because they compared that with what is put behind the French. Let's take a practical example of our rugby players. Practical example. They need to go to train in the morning.
Yes.
Somebody will wake up from wherever they are. Probably they have slept, and we're not sure whether they ate very well. Get into a matatu, get into the jam, and try to be at the RFUA ground very early in the morning, prayerfully that they have not been mugged or attacked on the road. They train and they have to rush back to work or to also and get some money. And then in the evening, they have to go back. Meanwhile, a professional in another country has woken up in a very good facility, very good food, where nutrition has prescribed what they need to eat, with all the facilities. They have trained in the morning, they go and rest. Then they come back and rest because they are paid to do that. We still need to be able to professionalize our sport, to be able to support what we have as talent, a lot of talent in our country, so that we can be able to succeed. Because we say if we are succeeding with so much talent, but very little behind it, then we can do so much more. How is it possible? Because even our economy should be able to support our athletes. There are very few athletes who are living off just being sports people, because an average Kenyan, like there is a big match on Sunday between our under-17 team, but how many Kenyans will go and pay to watch? Most of them will want it to be free. And already FKF has said to encourage people to go and support, it will be free. How many people buy any sort of merchandise to support that team? How many of our big corporates and the very rich Kenyans put money behind sports like they put behind education, just for example?
But I think that's where the federations come in. Your intern is you. That's where the federations come in, and even the organizers. So, for example, I've been asking this question when we have those national trials for the Olympics. Okay, I always say that's when the Olympic is actually happening. Because when you know who is going to participate in a certain race, that person is definitely meddling. Okay. How much publicity is given towards these Olympic trials, apart from just the teams and the federations knowing, apart from the guys in the military, the police, really knowing that they're going to compete? How much do you tell us to come to Nyayo Stadium and know that this weekend we are going to have this? How much do you even approach media for partnership to say, live stream this thing so everybody can see? How much build-up is there for it? Because that's an opportunity for merchandising, for getting gate collections, for a lot of other things, or even bringing corporate sponsors.
Very true. Would have loved even to announce that right now, but as it is, we don't even know which stadium we'll use because the stadiums have been closed in preparation for AFCON in 2027. So if we had a stadium, we could announce the trials. If we knew where the event will be happening, that's what I'm saying. We have the goodwill as sports practitioners. We are doing our best, and we definitely, like sports, we go and you find the ground is rough, but you still have to give it your best. So we are working towards those particular areas. We are trying to influence the other stakes which are beyond our control to be able to align towards a lot of support. A lot of federations, despite the challenges and despite the history of problem mismanagement, despite a few areas where we still have to correct, because the areas we have to correct, we still need to bring as many stakeholders as possible to realize how important, how critical, what a pivotal the sports are in our country, so that we can be able to give all our athletes as much opportunity as possible. So yes, we'll do it. Once we know which stadium we are using, we'll be able to make announcements.
Tell us
you are
the
right,
dates.
we are starting.
That's it. I was going to tell you, Bwanamtuku, we just need the date.
15th.
Wherever it's going to be. Hata ukisema tuende Kawangware.
We'll say prepare for the 15th.
No.
This event is taking place on the 15th.
The Olympics.
The Olympics,
will be on the 15th.
Yes.
And then thereafter we cheer the one who goes
Please.
to win.
Yes, and then when you know the day, even if it's the day before, we say, on this date, in this place. See?
And we are going to have merchandise for Team Kenya. We'll bring the merchandise. Kenyans will be able to get it because it will be across the country so that people can wear proudly. Support by buying it, support Team Kenya, and even the funds which will be gained from that particular merchandising program will go to our youth programs so that we can be able to prepare the next Olympiad.
I'm sorry, Francis, but I am absolutely not convinced at all that the National Olympic Committee is doing anything towards this. I mean, the 15th of June is when the Olympics begins for Kenya, right? This is, I mean, not begins, but this is the main one. This is the one where we are saying, so who are we going to be cheering come Paris? Which we start having those debates between these two, who's actually bringing the gold and who's bringing the silver. It's a big thing.
That build-up is
It's the 17th now.
It just so happens that we like sports, so we'll participate in watching. But can you imagine how much more could be done if it is hyped?
And we are all going to be watching the Olympics come July. We will all be watching the Olympics. And then we should have this whole story
know
right now. This is what we should be seeing. But anyway, let me ask about tennis, because this time we are getting a medal in tennis, aren't we?
Amen to that.
Tell us about the preparations for tennis, and then now from the federation side, right? And then from the secretariat side.
Yeah, so of course, Angela Okutoi won the African Games gold medal, which technically qualified her for Paris 2024. However, there is a requirement she must fulfill, and that is to get to top 400 in the world ranking. And so since African Games to now, she's working to try and bring down her to increase her points and bring down her ranking to 400.
What's her ranking currently?
It's 500. So there are two rankings. There's the WTA ranking, she's about 500 and something. On the Road to Paris ranking, she's about maybe 502 maybe. But yesterday she won her match. She's playing a tournament in the US. So that always means every time she wins a match, it means she collects more points.
And there's no universality in this one.
So there is, but the universality usually goes to defending champions who didn't make it, or a top athlete. So with tennis it's a bit difficult. However, we are applying for universality just in the case that she does not reach the 400.
We understand that you have an onerous task. We do understand, because you are trying to pick up an institution from, I'm not going to say the ashes, but from the difficulties that have been synonymous with it. However, the athlete, the sports individual, and the interest. We have seen corporate institutions in this country rallying behind sports. We've seen it. There are others who are synonymous with sports and have been. Our national airlines have done a sterling job despite the difficulties and complications that they've had. Surely there must be a winning formula where the dire straits, and Bonamtuk, you described it well. I, as a former rugby player, I understand and I feel the pain. How do you ensure that we don't dim the capacities and the possibilities of these budding athletes who have brought so much glory to this country? Because